Welcome to Flyover Conservative Podcast with David and Stacy Whited, where we break down current events and examine culture through the lens of conservative Christian values.
Today on the Flyover Conservative Podcast, we are talking about timelines. We are talking about coincidences that are too big to be coincidences. And when you start talking timelines, when you start looking at geopolitics and relation to the Bible, when you kind of zoom in and zoom out, you go 30,000 feet and then you go back in for the landing and you start looking around, there's pretty much only one person I've ever met that is a studier of timelines, and that is none other than our guest today, Mr. Bo Polny. Welcome, Bo. Welcome to the show.
God bless you, Colton, your family, and everything you guys are doing over there. So thank you for not backing down and standing on the word of Jesus.
Thank you, Bo. I'm so excited. One of the first times I got to see you, actually saw you on Elijah streams, and my dad's like, all right, everybody, we have to watch this show. And it was you and Steve. We all sat down. We were in front of the TV, and you were talking biblical timelines. You were showing these slides, and they're beautiful slides, and you're going through all this information, this data. And I didn't understand a lot of it. I was trying to wrap my head around it, but I loved how excited you were about it. And then now we've had you on our show probably a dozen or more times, and every time we have you on, I just get so excited, and I love the information that you give. For those of you guys that haven't watched Bo on a show before, he has these beautiful slideshow presentations that he goes through, and you can actually get those slides if you text the letters BO to 40509, BO to 40509. You can get these slides, but we're going to be going through them today, Bo, and I'm so excited about how things are lining up, and whenever times get really confusing, one of my first thoughts is, what does Bo think about this? Whenever there's a lot of big geopolitics things going on, I'm like, what is Bo saying about the timeline we're in right now? So Bo, take us away. Tell us what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's been years that the Lord has been revealing much to me. And, you know, it's just like God reveals things in his timing. But a lot of the essence of what he revealed to me years ago is the timing of events and end of days, and to understand it. And every year I've had more revelations. So specifically, again, you know, you saw me in Elijah streams a few years ago.
Yep.
You know, God revealed to me a long time ago of the calculating time into the end of days. And so there's two windows that we're seeing. You know, one is the horsemen. We're seeing all of these things begin, but then it's the stage that's being set up for the tribulation. And so God's revealed to me the timing of things. But again, when I was on that show several years ago, it was you know, the knowledge that he's revealed to me now, specifically starting as of September, October of last year, to what I knew then is night and day. In other words, God gives everybody a lane to speak in, and mine is the anointing of time. And so I want people to understand, you know, we don't have 100, we don't have 200 years to go. We have far from that. And God's revealed to me actually how to count, and specifically counting using a 2-4-8 cycle, which goes back to the 1-2-4. But all of this is divine math, which he then showed me last year how to count from creation to Moses killing the Israelite, to Moses killing the Hebrew, Moses killing the Egyptian. Yeah, to him fleeing into the wilderness, to the great flood, actually before the great flood, and then Moses. All of these things are calculated time points right to the Jesus' birth. And then from the birth of Jesus, you can go 248-year cycles, 7 forward, and you get to what happened with the United States and America 40 years when it's in the wilderness. My point is, all of these are divine calculations. All of these calculations were a setup from creation. This is where I'm going with this.
Yep.
From creation to the birth of Jesus to the Declaration of Independence was divine calculations to the exact year.
Wow.
And why I reference that is because if you take the 248-year cycle, which we're going to talk about today, if you go from the Declaration of Independence, 248 years takes you to the year 2024, July, which means that as you and I speak today, Colton, this right now is the year 248, which means that the year 248 ends when? Right there, it's in yellow, the July 3rd, 2025.
That's coming up
And the
quick.
last time, well, yeah, and the wild thing was the last time, just to go show you that this is correct math, because I'm going doing this podcast with your mom, with your
Yep.
mother and father, and this was maybe a month ago.
Yep.
And as I'm bringing this up, next thing you know, they're basically saying, well, Robin Bullock and Kent Christmas are having a conference
Yep.
that God instructed them to do, and it was specifically instructed to start on July 3rd.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is this, and I believe, and I believe yourself and your mother and father are emceeing the event.
Yep. And I helped
So
make the video for the promotion for it. So you kept saying July 3rd, July 3rd, July 3rd. I'm like, that's the day of the dismantling tour. And Robin Bullock kept saying, this is the closing of the book. This is the turning of the page. We are moving on from what has been. We're moving on from a season of war. And he said, like, this date is important. This date is important. This date is important. So July 4th, 2025, he says, marks the first day of the new chapter that we are heading into. So big day, and it's called the Dismantling Tour, and the tickets are actually free. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, that sounds amazing, you can go to robindbullock.com and get your own free tickets. It's going to be at the Grand Ole Opry Event Center there in Nashville, Tennessee. So would love to see you guys there, get to meet you there. We are going to be there, and David and Stacy are emceeing, hosting the event along with Kent Christmas and Robin Bullock, and Steve Schultz is coming in. We're bringing the whole band together on July 3rd, 2025 in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right, and I appreciate you guys doing that. My wife will be there as well too. We've already got tickets, and we've already, we've got the hotel rooms booked and everything. So we're very excited because I know what the Lord revealed to me with regard to biblical calculations, and so the biblical calculations are pointing that there's not a lot of time left. Soon enough we will be in the Great Tribulation, but we're not still there yet. We're at a very exciting time point because before the tribulation ever hits this world, something incredible happens. The glory comes upon the world. So we're stepping into a time of point where my glory shall fill the earth. Numbers 14:21. My glory shall fill the earth. You see, so before Christ returns, the glory comes upon the earth. Why do you need the glory to come upon the earth? For the same reason your mother does the prophetic report, and she constantly states, billion soul harvest, right? It's going to end up not being a billion, be multi-billion soul harvest. Okay,
come on,
Colton, you're never going to get a multi-billion soul harvest without one thing:
God moving.
Miracles.
Yeah.
Miracles is the key word, okay? And so the reason when Christ was on the earth, the reason everybody wanted to be around Jesus, because they saw miracles. And so the glory brings miracles. See, what the Lord revealed to me, fascinating enough, and this will make sense, the problem with the revival of the it was the Billy Graham revival. As great as that revival was, think about Billy Graham, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. The guy, he was so anointed that he took the gospel around the world.
Yeah, into stadiums.
Millions of people gave themselves to Christ. How awesome was that? But there was something massively missing with that revival. What? Miracles.
Wow.
You see, because glory comes with miracles. And so miracles, signs, and wonders.
Yeah.
And that's what's about to happen. So as great as, what brought us together with the Reawaken America tour, you see, that was an event that was transpiring. It was exactly, incredibly, 3.5 years, Daniel 12, verse 7. Believe it, from the first event to the final event, it was Daniel 12:7, 3.5 years to the exact weekend.
Wow.
Like, you can't make this stuff up, right? But that event was nothing but a forerunner to the great harvest / revival that's about to happen. And so what's going to happen is what happened with Billy Graham. We're going to have stadiums filled because sporting events are going to go when the great and terrible day, the Joel 2 movement happens. It's going to be the great and the terrible day. People are going to be shocked of what God does, and they're going to know that there is a God. And because they're going to be shocked and they know that there is a God, sporting events are going to become so unimportant. They're going to be or so much less important. And what's going to happen is, and these stadiums are now going to be empty of sports. So guess what's going to fill them? Revival. Right, but this is the wild part. So now we're going to have Billy Graham 2.0, because Billy Graham 2.0 is the revival plus
Mm,
signs, miracles, and wonders.
I love it. And you got the slide
Because
4 here, talking about the midnight hour, and on it talks about Joel 2, the great and terrible day, how awful that day will be, Jeremiah 30. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming, Psalms 37. And that was April 20th, 2025. This is the midnight hour. Tell me about what does this midnight hour mean, April 20th?
right, so what I can do is let me just if I can let me go through the slides here. Let's go start at slide 2, and we'll work our way down. So
Okay.
with slide 2, when you're looking at that, what I want the viewers to understand is the timing of things. So what the Lord is doing is, when Trump got elected, 1,260 days. Remember, like the Reawaken tour was
Yep.
1,260 days. Okay, 1,260 days to the exact day. Oil collapsed to negative $38 a barrel. Why this is important? Because the financial system, the Federal Reserve note, is how they're controlling everything and everybody via the puppet master system. They basically create money out of thin air. They give you mortgages, credit cards. They control you. Okay, so what I'm saying is that day the Lord revealed to us a marker in time. And so if it's a marker in time, he specifically stated correlate that with what happened with the Great Flood. So it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. 40 days and 40 nights was May 31, 2020.
Okay.
George Floyd riots occurred, pieces taken from the earth, and specifically Paris riots, Brazil, London, Argentina, Black Lives Matter, Portland riots, Chicago riots, Minneapolis riots. All of these things happened. The wars began, Ukraine war, all of this stuff happened starting May 31.
Yep.
There is peace on the earth. May 31 hit, everything changed. Okay. So in other words, that's a biblical time point. And we'll get to that. Why I'm saying this, because this relates to 2025 in a second.
Okay.
The other time point was the water kept rising for 150 days, and that ended up being September 18th, 2020. And on that day, I just said, watch something happen. What happened? Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies. That then sets the stage for overturning of Roe v. Wade. So why I'm referencing all of this is because the same thing just happened. So if you go on slide 4, what we're seeing right now is the same clock. What we're looking at is a 60-minute clock, which is an hour, right? But if God said something very interesting, remove the word minute, replace it with month. 60 months is 5 years.
Okay.
To the exact day, look what happened. The great shaking occurred. The Pope died.
Yep.
Klaus Schwab resigns.
I remember,
to the exact day, the next couple of slides.
I remember talking to you prior to April 20th, and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that the April 20th time frame, like this is like you're not like this person's going to die on this day. You're not names, dates, and babies, but you're like this time, this window here is a very important window. Pay attention. You're like ringing the alarm. Something happens, and I remember waking up that morning, and it was like the world was like crazy that morning. Like Klaus Schwab had retired, the Pope had died, like all in the same day. I'm like, oh my goodness, I bet Bo's got to be freaking out today. And it was the exact day that you were talking about. That was the exact window when you're like, something very important is going to be happening here on this day.
Well, and the funny thing was, I went to the Kent Christmas conference, and it was 10 days before that date. So I think it was around the 10th of April or something. So the Lord actually said to me, make a countdown clock. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, so every day. So I made a countdown clock, and it said and it said boom, boom. It kept counting down to April 21st.
Wow.
Like, how wild is this, right? And then on April 21st, you have the Pope die. What I'm trying to illustrate is that the Pope's death is a divine time point. I didn't know that he was going to die. I knew that there was something involved. The word would be biblical, and it would involve a death. And if there was one biblical person that, of script, that could die, that would relate to, a godly event, it would be the Pope.
Yeah.
And the fact that he died on 4/21 just shows you that this was a plan that God had. And so why I'm saying this is because this now sets the stage for the exact event. So the death of the Pope is the marker of time equivalent to oil collapsing to negative $38 a barrel 5 years early, exact date. Okay. So that said, if we clip on page 10, look at page 10, the same time window takes us 40 days and 40 nights from the death of the Pope to May 31, 2025.
Okay. Which is coming up.
which is coming up. It's this month, like in 2 weeks from now. Okay, I don't know what that means. If anything, will something transpire again? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know specifically the Lord said it's a starting point to start counting. So that's a very interesting time point. And then 150 days forward takes us again to this would be September 18th, 2025. So just put those two dates on the calendar and we'll see what happens. On slide 8, Kim Clement had a prophecy about the spirit of Pythos being removed. The spirit of Pythos will begin to be removed at resurrection. That's the sign. What is the sign? Resurrection. Okay, well, if you look on page 9, if you don't think that the Vatican audience hall, that's a snake.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, there's no way
famously
about
so.
this is called audience hall, and this is the spirit of Pythos, and this is the spirit of Pythos begins to be destroyed on resurrection.
Come on.
The key that unlocks the treasure chest. So this is a 2013 prophecy that we literally watched being fulfilled on 421, which was a divine calculation. Okay, so
and
God
even inside of this, like apparently he died on Easter Sunday, but it wasn't announced until 7:35 on Easter Monday is what they call it, because they had to get confirmation from the 4 people. Like, I don't understand I've watched Conclave and it's still like a lot of religious ceremony stuff to me, but even the fact that it was like on Resurrection Day, not announced till the next day, which is April 21st, like the when you're like going through these things, I'm like, oh my goodness, Resurrection Sunday was the sign, and then Monday was the announcement, which is 421. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and all of this is wild because it's by design, right?
Yeah.
It's not coincidence; it's design, and that's like what we talked about earlier. Everything about Trump, everything in Trump's life is by design with regards to the timing of things. From his birth, if you go on slide 12, you have to understand the mathematics are not possible. And let me ask the viewers to think about this, right? Why are there 7 days in a week, and the next week ends? And the next week begins on the 8th day. In other words, there's 7 days. Why aren't there 5 days in a week? Why aren't there 9 days in a week? Why? Because God wrote time. And so the week ends on the 7th day, and then the day starts, and then the next 7 begins. So the next 7 days begin. And so what you're seeing is from the day Trump is born, 700 days later to the exact day. That's the wild part. It's not 701 days. It's 700 days to the exact day Israel's declared a state.
Wow.
Now, if you go 77 years forward, it's yesterday.
Wow.
Why is that important? Because that's the first time, now Trump's involved in this, the first time a president has ever visited the United Emirates. On May 14th. First time ever a president, and it just happens to be Trump. Remember, these are the Trump numbers.
Yep.
So Trump, that mean that Trump would be needing to do something on May 14th. And the day before that, May 13th, as we headed into the 14th, he was meeting with Saudi Arabia, treated like royalty. There wasn't a red carpet. This was a purple carpet. This was royalty carpet. Okay?
Yeah.
They treated him like a king. Saudi prince met him at the tarmac. This was a divine royal appointment. Okay.
Yep.
And most importantly, it happened. And then they were talking. It was like $600 billion they announced, but then there's extra stuff. They were talking like $1 trillion deal that was put together. All of this May 13th into the 14th.
Wow.
How is this happening? And then from yesterday, May 14th, if you go back just 7 years, he moves the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem.
Wow.
7 years backwards yesterday.
I mean, that's wild. And 7 is God's number. 7 is that's like the number of completion. It's the number of perfection. It's the divine number. 7.
A week.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. And then if you go on page 11, look at this too, right? So from Trump's first term, Rosh Hashanah, this is important. Rosh Hashanah, which is a start of the new year. So from Rosh Hashanah start, you go 7 years forward, 7 months and 7 days. Trump is in the Vatican at the Pope's death.
Wow, that's wild. I love that. Can we go back to slide 7 real quick? You got the the Back to the Future tip of the hat there. What is the deal with 88 miles per hour here?
Yeah, that's just interesting. But when I looked into this, so 8 is so the week ends at 7, and then you step into the 8th day or the first day. So in other words, you're stepping into something new. And so, in the Bible, the number 8 often symbolizes a new beginning, resurrection. Again, see, resurrection. This happened on resurrection, right?
Yep.
And a new creation. It represents a fresh start beyond the completion or perfection symbolized by number 7. So it's beyond the number 7. Okay. Specifically, it's linked with resurrection of Jesus, the new covenant with Abraham, and the salvation of Noah and his family on the ark. So this is what the 8 represents. And then if you, with the 88 miles per hour, it's just kind of a fun thing because those who went to watch Back to the Future, the DeLorean had to hit 88 miles an hour.
Great gigawatts.
To jump into the future.
Yep.
And why I'm saying that is because the Pope was 88.
Yep.
And Klaus Schwab was getting, and they announced him he was stepping into 88 years old.
Yep.
So why are they referencing the 88? It's just symbolism, but I find it interesting because it represents a new beginning, but the Pope was 88 when he died.
Yep.
So, it's just a fun coincidence, but it really, again, there are really no coincidences in the Bible, and all of this is just, we're watching time unfold right in front of us.
I love it.
Now, with that said, we're in the month of May still, and this is important because 3 years ago, if you want to cue up the video of Trump speaking specifically in reference to a time window which starts on Memorial Day, this is important because 3 years ago, it was July of 2023. He says, in 3 years from now, we're going to start the great celebration of the 250 years of America. Okay. And the celebration is going to begin on May 26, 2025. Okay. So he's referencing May 26, 2025, 3 years ago.
Wow.
Now, why I make point of this, pay close attention. Actually, if you could even pull up the website, what was that? The United States a website for the White House.
Yep, it's whitehouse.gov/America250. Whitehouse.gov/America250. And they got this countdown timer on there.
Yes, so they've got a countdown timer on it. And if you look at it today, it's to the exact May to the 4th of July, 2026. Because that's 4th of July, 2026.
Yep.
Starts year 250.
Okay.
Okay. So if you count backwards, right, today is 414 days.
Okay.
Today is May 15th. So today to the 4th of July, 2026, it's 414 days away. That's on the whitehouse.gov website.
It is.
So
it's right
now
here.
Play the video. If you want to play the video and listen to what Trump is saying with regard to, he's literally laying out a time window, and this ties into something very fascinating that we've all experienced on our computers. So go and play the video.
Okay.
The United States will celebrate the biggest and most important milestone in our country's history. 250 years of American independence. What a great country. And we have to keep it that way. But that's why, as a nation, we should be preparing for a most spectacular birthday party. We want to make it the best of all time. Here is my plan to give America's founding in 1776 the incredible anniversary it truly deserves. On day one, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026. Second, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states. It'll be something. The Great American State Fair will showcase the glory of every state in the Union, promote pride in our history, and put forth innovative visions for America's future. My hope is that the amazing people of Iowa will work with my administration to open up the legendary Iowa State Fairgrounds to host the Great American State Fair and welcome millions and millions of visitors from around the world to the heartland of America for this special one-time festival. Together we will build it and they will come. Third, alongside the Great American State Fair, we will host major sporting contests for high school athletes. These are great athletes, wonderful athletes from fantastic high schools all around the country. These Patriot Games will allow young Americans from every state to show off the best of American skills, sportsmanship, and competitive spirit. Fourth, I will sign an executive order to bring back our National Garden of American Heroes, which we want to build very badly, commission artists for the first 100 statues to populate this new statuary park honoring the greatest Americans of all time. Fifth, as president, I will invite the leaders and citizens of nations around the world to visit the United States in honor of our 250th anniversary. It's going to be great. America's tourist industry should get ready because we're going to have a lot of people coming. It will be a record year. And finally, and most importantly, I will ask America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and our people as we prepare for this momentous occasion. From the very beginning, America has been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer and by our communities of faith. As we chart a course toward the next 250 years, let us come together and rededicate ourselves as one nation under God. Thank you.
Dude, that is awesome. I love that.
So the wild part is Memorial Day, May 26th. Like, this is wild. Memorial Day, May 26th, that clock is going to say 404. What it means, I don't know, but we've all seen the 404 error every time you try to log into a website. Does things shift then? Like, what's about to happen? We're waiting for precious metals to explode. I've said specifically, when silver blows vertical, it's going to get beyond chaos. It's going to go crazy. We're going to see it just leap up, go to $70. It's the bank killer. But why is that important? Because this is the takedown of Babylon, the Babylon's financial system. All of this is triggering. So it is just very interesting that, where does 404 specifically come from? No one really knows.
Yeah.
I did some research. It relates to CERN. So there's something weird going on there. Right?
Yeah.
And then why is it from Memorial Day to the 4th of July exactly 404 days? So it's very interesting, and all of this is coming together beautifully. And I just find, again, all these little pieces are little nuggets, but I do believe that something's about to trigger in May yet. Okay, so there's been prophecies of Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Your mom has referenced that as well too, as several prophets. And so I'm still waiting for something to trigger, because something's got to shift in the world to change the trajectory. Because otherwise, there's going to be nothing but speed bumps and uphill battle for Trump. This has got to shift. So the second term is a downhill. There is no battle. It's just downhill. And Trump will be there to repair, because America basically went through a great and terrible time point. So, and furthermore, slide 17, Kim Clement spoke specifically of joy in spring. Okay, so I believe silver ties in with that prophecy, because Kim Clement in this prophecy stated, he goes, the key that unlocks the treasure chest. Well, what the treasure chest would mean finance. The key that unlocks the treasure chest is given and released at Resurrection Sunday. Okay, so that event's transpired, and Klaus Schwab is now not there anymore at the World Economic Forum. And so that key that unlocks the treasure chest brings joy in spring. Spring ends on June 21 of this year. In other words, summer begins. So I would highly expect silver to explode and gold still this spring, because this is going to tie in with prophecy, not opinion, prophecy.
So let me ask you a question, Bo.
Something still has to happen. Go ahead.
It talks about the end times being like in the days of Noah. When you look at the story of Noah was ringing the alarm for a long time about, turning around, about, as he's building up his ark. We have the opportunity in Branson. They have this theater called the Sight and Sound Theater, and it's this beautiful theater. Like, the whole theater looks like you're inside the ark at one point when they're doing the story of Noah, and all these animals are coming on board. So it makes it really come alive, and you can hear the pleading in Noah's voice for people to turn their ways, to change their ways as he's building the ark, and then eventually the doors close, and the opportunity is now changed, and now they're there. When you're ringing the alarm bell here, you're like, hey, there's something happening. These dates, there's just too many things colliding, too many things moving. There's too much going on here. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. You're ringing the alarm. There you go. That's Sight and Sound Theater there. in your opinion, like Noah's message to people was get on the ark, get on the ark, get on the ark. What would be your message to people out there listening to this? Like, what is the action step you hope people will take based on the message you're giving here?
Well, again, see, God, you can't stop what's coming. If the prophecy is true, you can't stop what's coming. And trust me, this is, we're seeing just the fact that the Pope died, fulfillment of a Kim Clement prophecy, and then that unlocks the key that unlocks the treasure chest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're watching prophecy fulfill. God's treasure chest is, again, it's not only finance, it's the great revival, but again, what comes with the revival is finance, because you need finance to fund the revival.
So
because
good.
This is the greatest harvest in human history. That's what's about to happen, because this revival is going to be coupled with the glory. The revival is included with the glory. The glory brings signs, miracles, and wonders. So this revival will be again, like I said, this will be Billy Graham 2.0, because Billy Graham's, as wonderful as that was, people giving themselves to Jesus, there was no signs, miracles, and wonders. And what I mean by signs, miracles, and wonders was, people came into a Billy Graham revival in a wheelchair and they left in a wheelchair, okay? Yep. What's going to happen at these revivals, people are going to come into revival in a wheelchair or missing a limb, and they're going to leave the revival with a limb that just grew back.
Come on.
Not needing a wheelchair because their leg grew back. See, and I know this sounds crazy. Better word is impossible. Noah, they called crazy because he was doing something crazy, and then the rain began. Yeah. So the action steps are very simple. Just know that this is a covenant nation. We made a covenant with God. The founding fathers are long gone, but God didn't forget that covenant. We dedicated America to God. Okay, Kim Clement had a prophecy specifically that covenant is immutable.
Yep.
Please Google the word immutable. Stands the test of time. Cannot be broken, which means God's going to step in and restore the covenant. One nation founded under God. Trump just said it. He actually said it right in his last words. And so the action steps are very simple. The financial system is going to flip. Simply, bank accounts, when this event goes down, bank accounts will close. People are going to lose millions and billions of dollars because the whole system's a fraud. The digits in your bank account is not money, they're digits in a bank account. If you study history, every single money ever created by man goes to zero. Not overnight, okay? But in time, the Federal Reserve note that you believe is money is going to go to zero. There's specifically what's called Operation Sandman. No one really talks about this, but it is a real thing. This is going to happen. I truly believe it's on slide 23. But Operation Sandman is specifically was, when I wrote this, at that time, it was 142 countries worldwide will repudiate, means dump, the US dollar currency on the same day, and from that day forward, they will refuse it as payment globally. Think about that. So the US dollar will so no one in the world will no longer accept the federal, because it's not federal, reserves. There are no reserves. They just make money out of thin air. Yeah. And note means it's paper. No one globally is going to accept the Federal Reserve note as payment.
Wow.
And that's going to cause in a single day. And that's going to cause a collapse shortly thereafter, within a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, of the bond market. When the bond market begins to implode, the only thing that's going to happen after that is interest rates spike, probably overnight. That's going to collapse the real estate market. So understand, everybody who thinks that they have wealth, they've got a bunch of money in the bank, they've got real estate holdings. When this event goes down, within a few months, those real estate holdings are going to collapse between 70, 80, 90%. I know this sounds crazy.
No,
but this
I believe it.
What will happen. The bank accounts will close, and so people, and this is all idol worship, okay? Owning real estate, owning these things, all these things that people, they're all idols. And I know it's important to have finance, but the problem is the world now takes all of their time, and this is the key here. It controls them. They're spending all of their time chasing more finance. That's when money controls you. It's okay to have funds. It's not okay when it controls you. And the entire world right now is chasing finance. It controls them. They want more and they more and more. And God's going to rip all that away. And so when God rips all that away, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to find God, you're going to find Jesus,
Yep.
or you're going to curse him. Okay? And the long answer, the preparation is Haggai 2, verse 8. Okay? You can't stop what's coming. Whether you believe me or not, if you don't even have 1 ounce of silver, 1 ounce of silver, you don't understand history. History says I'm 1,000% right, because history says every currency ever created by man in 5,000 years, everyone has gone to zero. So it's not my opinion. History says that I will be proven 100% right. Kim Clement said, you can knock the prophet, but time will prove him correct.
100%.
And those are Kim Clement's words, okay? So what I'm saying is that the financial system, history states that every single money instrument goes to zero in time. Same will at the Federal Reserve note is no different. That's going to happen to it, okay? So if you don't own even 1 ounce of silver, you simply don't understand history.
Yeah.
And you will therefore be subject to what history brings. And if you know what history, go study what 1929 happened, okay? When that event happened in 1929, the ones that knew it was coming were buying at the bottom.
Yep.
And they got out at the top. The ones that had no clue, which is pretty much most of everybody, got destroyed. There was nothing but lines and lines outside of banks and everything. It was horrific, okay? So I'm telling you, if you don't own precious metals, you don't know history.
Yeah.
History repeats. That which has been, Ecclesiastes, will be again. Okay, it's a type and shadow. Okay, so to not study history is foolish, because history tells you what's going to happen. Let's say it happens in 10 years from now. Fantastic, okay, but it's not. This is going to go down this year, okay? It's going down this year. Very simply, read Leviticus 25. Leviticus 25. Thou shalt consecrate the 50th year, proclaim liberty throughout the land. What did I say? Which number, Leviticus? 25. What year is this? 2025.
Yep.
You
And on
see,
slide 21, you can see more about that.
coincidence. Yeah, this is not a coincidence. God's doing all this. And then number two is, so the petrodollar, this, remember we said 71 to 74. 71 started, started with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, and then you had abortion, and then 73 was abortion, and then 74, this is key, 74, June 9th, 1974, Kissinger meets with Saudis to sign the petrodollar contract. Very important, because now we're no longer backed by gold, we're backed by oil.
Yep.
Petrodollar contract. Now, this is wild because exactly 50 years, Leviticus. Okay, so this Leviticus is telling you how to mark time. So Leviticus, 50 years, so slide 22, 50 years later to the exact day, the Saudis on June 9th, 2024, last year, they refused to re-sign the contract.
Yep.
Not my opinion. These are the articles. They're right there in front of you. Read the articles. Saudis refused to re-sign the petrodollar contract. That takes it to slide 25. This is interesting because now this is wild. So you and I and your family, we were in Vegas.
Yep.
On August 24th, 2023, at the Reawaken America tour, and we watched and witnessed Trump getting arrested.
Yep.
They took a mugshot. That was on June 24th, 2023. On that same day, Saudi Arabia, the United Emirates, among 6 other countries, were invited to join the BRICS. What did I just say? Saudi Arabia and the United Emirates. Do you understand that neither of those countries in the Middle East, none of them have agreed to join the BRICS.
Wow.
They were only thinking about it. Now, if you look, and on May 8th, just a week ago, Saudis, there's the article right there, Saudi Arabia sits on the fence over BRICS.
Wow.
With an eye of vital ties to the U.S. In other words, Saudi Arabia, as of May 8th, a week ago, still had not joined the BRICS. They were sitting on the fence. Why is this important? Because 2 days on the 13th. Come on. That was royalty. That was Trump confirming his agreement. And Saudi Arabia was in complete awe of Trump. And they have the greatest respect for one another. So let me tell you, Saudis, oh, they ain't joining the BRICS. Forget about that one. EU, they ain't joining the BRICS, okay? And why is that important? Because the BRICS plan was to take down the dollar. Now, the dollar will still collapse, okay? This is biblical, but when the dollar collapses in value, Trump is going to be there with the United Emirates, with Saudi Arabia, and they're going to rebuild a new money system backed by gold.
Wow.
And this is why it's called the Golden Age. So after Operation Sandman, nobody's going to accept the US dollar as payment globally. However, Trump's got allegiance, alliance, and a beautiful respect and friendship with the Saudis, with the EU, one of the most richest nations in the world, and that relationship is going to flourish. And what's going to end up happening is Trump is now going to be in there when the takedown occurs in the financial system. Trump's going to be there for the rebuild of the financial system, but he's going to rebuild it.
Yep.
I'm going to repeat, Trump is going to rebuild the financial system. It's going to be backed by gold.
Come on.
Silver out of the United States Treasury, which will have zero zilch nada to do with a Federal Reserve System. Okay?
Come on.
So United States will end up having two currencies for a short window until the Federal Reserve System just dies off over the next years to come. Okay? But the United States will have a treasury-backed system backed by gold and silver, and that system of finance will be the most powerful finance in the world. The United States will be the most powerful nation in the world. So why is it important to hold gold and silver? Because if you hold it today, you're already in that new system that Trump's going to bring live in the golden age.
Yep.
All of this is you can't stop it. And back to the time window of things, this is crazy because remember I said on June 9th, 2024, Saudis refused to sign a petrodollar contract. So when does the 50 years end? On June 8th, 2025. Which is slide 26, Pentecost.
Pentecost, yep.
You can't make this up. How is Pentecost landing on June 8th, the last day of the 50-year petrodollar contract? Trump is meeting with the Saudis on May 14th, 15th to secure financial. This was financial relations. That's what that was. Securing financial relations. It's incredible. This is the takedown of Babylon. Babylon's about to come crumbling down. And that leads me into, so we talked about May 31, very important date, May 31 of this year, because it's 40 days from resurrection. Okay, 50 days is Pentecost. Okay, so both of those are important.
Okay.
Very important, but May 31, remember, on May 31, 5 years earlier, peace was taken from the earth. So 5 years later is May 31 of this year. So is peace restored?
That's a good question.
My question is peace restored? But let me ask you, just go look at what happened with Saudis right now. You don't think Trump is creating peace out there in the Middle East right now?
Yeah.
Come on, okay?
That was the main focus of his last administration. It ended with the Abraham Accords and pulling them together and creating that peace as much as possible. Was one of the marking moments of his last term.
Absolutely. So so this is getting into a time point where we have a critical mass here at the end of May and into Pentecost. Critical, okay?
Okay. With
May 31 being a very important time point. And then also, we'll see what happens with Pentecost. That's 50. And then beyond that, we get into 150 days, which is September 18th. And if we want to prep that video, there's a video that I sent you, and that video specifically ties in with that time point. And the video is, let me see which video I sent you. That video is titled September Fall of Kings. And so that's a very important video because it ties in with, I believe, what's about to happen. Because Kim Clement stated, beginning in September, and this is critical, listen to his words, moving into the fall.
Okay.
This is very important because September 18th is still summer.
Yep.
Fall begins on September 22nd.
I like it. Let's check it out.
September 18th, very important. September 22nd, fall begins. And play the video. Everything's coming together beautifully. Go ahead.
A day to remember is coming. It is rapidly approaching as the summer is ending. As the summer is ending. This day will change everything, and your life will never be the same. It will be a marker in history, and everything in your life will be different before and after this day. This is the day you have been praying, hoping, and believing for. Fear not, as there will be much confusion, and much will happen in one day. I am the great I am, and there is nothing that I can't do.
But this is for you, says the Lord. The tide is turning for you. A very strange thing shall happen in September. Moving into the fall where there shall be a great fall. Fall of the enemies, fall of kings, fall of princes. Watch and see, for God says beginning in September, I will turn everything around, and my people shall see an intervention of a kind that they have never seen before.
This day will change everything, and your life will never be the same.
3 years from now, the United States will celebrate the biggest and most important milestone.
All right, so Bo, we're coming in on a landing on not only this show, but also in this little window here. We got May 31st is an important day. The end of summer going into the fall is an important time period. Kind of wrap us up here. How does this all connect?
I would finish on slide 19 because honestly, this is the stepping into the Joel movement. Because if you read Joel 29, your sons and daughters will prophesy. Old men will dream dreams. Young men will see visions. Joel 2:31 talks about the great and the terrible day of the Lord. He says, before the great and terrible day, we'll see a blood moon. The moon will turn to blood. That happened on March 13th. March 29th, the sun turned dark of this year. Okay. So those two things happened before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Then April 21 hit, and we had the Great Shaking. The Great Shaking is still the setup for the great and terrible day of the Lord. If you listen to the prophecy I just played, okay? Is it going to happen? Is that great and terrible day going to happen in the spring yet, as we step into summer? Or is it set for Rosh? Because that's Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so September 22nd, if we can pull the last slide I'd like you to pull up, would be slide 36, because fall ends on September 22nd, and that just happens to be
Rosh Hashanah. Wow.
The beginning of a new year. Fall of kings, fall of princes. A very strange thing will happen in September, moving into the fall. 2025 is going to go down in history as the greatest year in human history.
Come on.
Joel 2:31 talks about specifically the great and terrible day of the Lord. It's great for the church because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
We've been preparing for it. Many of us have been buying precious metals because we know it's coming. We know the systems of the whole financial systems of fraud.
Yep.
Okay, it is. They create money out of thin air. If you create something out of thin air, it's a fraud. Okay, so it's be great for the church because we know it's coming. And during that great shaking, we know great shaking is coming. So we're going to be on our knees praying, but we'll be at peace.
Yep.
But this will be the worst day in human history. I'm going to repeat. This will be the terrible part. Will be the greatest day, the worst day in human history for all of those who thought Noah was crazy. All of those who refused to wake up, because God is going to shake people awake. And that's going to bring in the great harvest, the greatest harvest, because harvest is in the fall time in human history. That's what's coming.
So good.
We're stepping into the greatest harvest in human history. The harvest comes with the greatest financial event in human history, the great wealth transfer, because the wealth of the sinners is stored up for the righteous. We become the head in finance and not the tail. The tail are the borrowers. The head is the lenders. Everything flips. So the world as we know it is going to change forever. By the time we get into December of this year, it'll be a full-on 180 of what January was of this year. The world will never be the same by the end of this year, and we're still stepping into the summertime, which something is about to shift here. May's critical, September's extremely critical, and we're just going to have to watch together what the Lord's going to bring and how the Lord's going to do it. But the great strike, the great move that God's about to do, this is, understand, when Jesus died on the cross, that was honestly the last true miracle that's been documented in terms of great miracles on this earth, okay? And so it's been 2,000 years since the resurrection of Christ, okay? So this is a setup of 2,000 years that we with our own eyes are about to witness. Because Daniel 2 verse 34 says, while we are watching, a stone carved out by no human hand, meaning God is going to intervene, bring the glory upon the earth. And that glory is going to bring signs, miracles, and wonders, which is then going to step us into the greatest revival in human history. This will be specifically Revival 2.0, a revival of Jesus that includes signs, miracles, and wonders. This will be the Joel 2 movement that we have read about, prayed about, known about, but has never happened. But God only needs 24 hours. So all of this is a setup of 2,000 years. God's going to step in. He's going to change the course of history, and he has his anointed there. I've shown you through the math. His anointed is in office to rebuild America, to be the greatest nation in the world, and the America will be the beacon of light during end times. So thank you, Colton.
Thank you, Bo.
And to your beautiful family.
Thank you, Bo. This was so good. I love the way the story comes to life whenever you tell it, and it is the greatest story ever told. So thank you, Bo, for making it come to life.
Amen.
And thank you, Flyover family, for joining us today on this journey. Man, I'm telling you right now, there is nothing quite like watching Bo go through these timelines, draw these things out, go through these slides. And like you said, in the days of Noah, man, there was a window where the door was open, and then it shut. And when it shut, it rained. And I think we're coming in for a time where it's going to rain. And so how do you prepare for that? Number one is I think turn your heart towards Jesus. At the Sight and Sound Theater show I was talking about there with the story of Noah, at the end of it, they talked about the door closing and then what that represents with Jesus. Jesus is the door. He is the way. He is the truth. He is the life. And I think, if you're listening to this today and you've not done that first, that is the very first step of preparation that you should make. Turn your heart towards Jesus and align with his plans. Step one. I think that's the most important step. And then financially, he said it there, but Haggai 2 talks about the fact that silver and gold is God's money. It's his money. Haggai 2. In the days where it expands, it'll be a 30, 60, 90 fold. So get your hands on some silver. That's what we've done. That's what our family's done. That's what our crew's done.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.